The movie opens with a military escort departing Area 51 with classified cargo. At the same time, a newlywed couple's driving in the opposite direction down the same road when the husband becomes distracted. Two soldiers are speculating what the cargo could be and whether it's an alien, when the couple veer over the lane and crash headfirst into the convoy, sending the payload flying. The soldiers hop out to assess the damage and one approaches the cargo when the door suddenly swings open. Sergeant Kelly tells the lone soldier to step away, causing him to take his eyes off it for a moment, when a zombie leaps out and attacks him. It proceeds to tear the whole unit apart as Kelly and his driver Bissell flee into the desert. When Kelly trips, the specimen catches up and rips Bissell's jaw from his head, then goes for Kelly, slipping his bullets as these aren't the slow kind of zombies. After biting him, the two new zombies rise almost immediately and join their leader overlooking Las Vegas. Soon it becomes overrun with an army of zombies spreading faster than the military contains it. The mercenary Scott leads a team, including his right-hand merc Maria, to save who they can, before all hope's lost and the city's eventually sealed off with a wall of shipping containers, crushing one lady and her daughter, who runs into her arms with the final piece. Years later, and Scott's now working as a short-order cook at a diner, when one day he's approached by billionaire casino owner Tanaka. He proposes Scott lead a team back into Vegas, where $200 million sits in his casino vault beneath the strip, and since the insurance company considers it lost, the money's clean and Tanaka offers him $50 million of it should he take the job. He's given blueprints of the vault to think about it, as the government discuss on television their plan to nuke the strip and eliminate all the zombies. At a quarantine zone outside of the city, Scott's daughter Kate works as a volunteer around the camp taking care of two kids. Their mother Gita tells Kate her plan to hire a coyote to smuggle her into the city to collect enough money to bribe the guards and get her kids out of the camp. One of the camp guards approaches and begins harassing the two like he always does. Burt uses a thermometer to take the girl's temperature, hoping that he'll get to shoot someone infected. When they both pass, he leaves disappointed and Kate convinces her friend not to risk going into the city, but in secret she goes to see a coyote named Lilly to help her get inside. That night Scott has a nightmare of the time he came home to find his wife a zombie. He was forced to kill her in front of Kate, which resulted in the two not speaking to each other in these past few years. The next morning he calls Tanaka, letting him know that he'll take the job, and begins putting together a team, starting with his old friend Maria, who's now a mechanic. She's happy to see him after all these years and is convinced with the promise of a $15 million cut. With the rest they recruit another former teammate, Vanderohe, who was with them in the final days of Vegas and now works at a quiet retirement village. He agrees to go for the equal cut of $15 million and for psychological relief, wanting to see Vegas in its current state to remove the gruesome images of its final days from his head. The most important member of the team, Peters, agrees to be their pilot with the promise of $2 million, saying that it'll change her life. Needing some more guns for the wet work, they approach an internet star and zombie killer Guzman, who agrees for $500 grand. Finally they recruit a safecracker named Ludwig for $250, but he agrees mostly as he calls the vault the Mona Lisa of safes and wants to have a crack at it. The team gears up with Vanderohe retrieving his rescue saw used to save people and kill zombies during the final days. They all meet at a warehouse where Mikey brings two other members, Damon and Chambers, to assist, but Damon leaves the moment he learns they're going into Vegas. Due to the restricted airspace, Tanaka goes over the plan to make their way in by foot, and use a helicopter on his hotel to escape once Ludwig's cracked the vault. In order to gain access to the city, Scott reunites with his daughter, who's displeased to see him but agrees to introduce him to the Coyote. Kate takes the team to her camp in a bus where they're joined by Martin, who says that he's here to oversee the operation for his boss. When they reach the fence, Kate discovers that Gita never returned to her children and punches Lilly for taking her inside. She plans to enter and search for her friend with the team despite her father's objections. Before Lilly takes the team down a hidden entrance through shipping containers and into the city, she also manages to convince Burt to join them with the promise of $25 grand, but the moment they enter she shoots him in the leg and ties him up. As punishment for abusing the women in the camp, Lilly offers him as a tribute to the zombies. A large zombie tiger named Valentine briefly patrols the entrance, but the offering's for the queen, the bride of the Alpha, who escaped Area 51 and is currently standing watching from above. She sniffs the offering, then accepts it, as another grabs Burt and drags him back to their nest at the Olympus Casino. He's held prisoner by the dead until their leader Zeus enters, now sporting long hair and with a baby on the way. The Alpha infects Burt and tosses him into the empty pool to be taken by the rest of the horde. The team cut through a building where they come across hibernating zombies filling the hallways. Unlike the ones on the surface, which dry up requiring the rains to reanimate them, these are still juicy and are just waiting until the sun goes down to once again emerge. They continue to sleep standing as the team attempts to move quietly past them, with Chambers covering the rear as she doesn't trust Martin. When he gets out of sight, he tosses a glow stick in the other direction, leading her the wrong way, causing her to accidentally wake a sleeper, which she stealthily kills. They all wake one by one as she stabs them all silently in the brain, until a group all come to at the same time, requiring her to open fire. She makes it back to the team, but Martin locks her out and she unfortunately runs out of bullets. The rest of the group make it into the hotel mall before realizing she's not there, when Chambers smashes through a storefront surrounded on all sides. With no other option and with her appreciation, Guzman tearfully shoots the tank of fuel on her back, blowing the swarm and his friend to pieces. They make it to Tanaka's casino and clear the lobby of the few betas that are staggering around, when Ludwig finds a second copy of the blueprints, implying that another team attempted this, but Martin denies knowing about it. The team split up, with Peters going to the roof with the tanks of fuel to get the helicopter ready for their escape. Martin and Lilly do a perimeter check and see Valentine still patrolling the streets alone. While trying to get power to the vault's elevator, Scott discusses his failed relationship with his daughter, which fell out after her mom died, which Scott thought she blamed him for, but she's really just mad at him for not sticking around after. When he gets the power on, Vanderohe and Guzman assist Ludwig in reaching the vault, where he shoots a Vegas bride in his first ever zombie kill. The keycard supplied to them isn't able to be used as another team damaged the lock attempting to gain access, surprisingly wearing the same gear as the current team members. Vanderohe begins to spook Ludwig with the notion that perhaps they're in a time loop, with Tanaka the puppet master and they're just living and dying, repeating the same heist over and over. He blows away the first layer of defense, then sends one of the betas in to set off all of the other traps, eventually splatting the zombie. Outside, Martin begins his side mission for Tanaka when he captures the bride in the middle of the street. Her follower almost reaches and kills Martin, but is headshot by Lilly, who assists the merc in taking the bride's still living head and putting it in a bag. Needing an alpha to create more alphas, Martin claims that the ability to make a zombie army is worth more than what's in the vault. Zeus is shown to have Gita held captive with another two women and hears his bride screaming, so drags one away and heads out in style. Riding atop his zombie horse, he comes across her headless body and begins to mourn. He carries her back to the Olympus and rips out their glowing unborn zombie baby, before rallying the rest of the horde to charge on the vault. The team learn from a news report that the nuke set to destroy the city has just been moved up 24 hours, leaving them only until sunset to get the money. After he does his thing, Ludwig cracks the vault and the team begins to celebrate a job well done. They begin to pack their shares into bags when Maria admits that she agreed to come on the mission not for the millions but for Scott. With Scott feeling the same way, they plan to start a new life with the money and Kate, when he suddenly notices that she's missing and has gone to the Olympus to look for her friend. Zeus, now with a heavy helm atop his crown, leads his army across the Vegas ruins and swarms the powered casino, and when Maria opens the elevator, one grabs her head and breaks her neck. Scott shoots and stabs them in the brain while they begin evading attacks, eventually needing to flee with the other members out a service entrance. Once Martin's through, he traps the rest of the team underground, being his plan all along, and flees with the bride's head with the intention of killing Peters and flying the helicopter himself. Lilly uses Vanderohe's saw to cut the lock while its owner and Ludwig are trapped in the vault room shooting approaching zombies, with the ones getting past them being brought down by Guzman. Zeus enters and tanks every headshot the boys fire at him until they eventually run out of ammo. He removes his helmet and challenges Vanderohe to a fight where he easily nearly beats him to death. But when he's just about to bite him, Ludwig blindsides the alpha and pushes his new friend into the vault, sacrificing himself and sealing it behind Vanderohe. Martin makes it outside unseen by the zombies but discovers that Lilly swapped out the head. When the horde first entered the building, Valentine remained out front and finds Martin, so begins to toss him around the car park, tearing chunks out of him and eventually eating his head from his shoulders. Guzman, Scott and Lilly make it to the casino floor and begin to shoot their way through the attacking horde, with some headshots revealing shiny metal skeletons. They make it to the elevators, but Guzman turns around to look at the others and is brought down and bitten. With his share of the money raining down on him, Guzman pulls the pin on his grenade belt, blowing himself up and allowing the final two survivors to escape. Zeus is only now just getting back from the vault and finds half his horde burning. Scott and Lilly make it to the helicopter on the roof, but they are closely followed by Zeus, so Lilly produces his bride's still living head, threatening to kill her. She holds off the zombie leader, allowing the other two to escape, but when she takes her eyes off for a moment, Zeus impales her to the wall with his spear. Before he can reach her, the Coyote tosses the head off the roof and the bride splats on the pavement, leaving Lilly to be killed off screen. Scott has Peters fly them to the Olympus to try and find Kate, who's searching the hotel for Gita. She finds her along with another woman, but as they begin to escape, a zombie Burt attacks and bites out her throat. When he lunges at Kate, she's now legally justified in blowing the douche's head off. Peters races Zeus back to the Olympus, but the Alpha finds Kate and Gita first and begins to chase them through the halls. They reach a dead end and use up their last bullet, bouncing off Zeus's head, but Scott enters and blows him away with a grenade. They make it to the roof where it appears that Peters abandoned them, but she returns saying that she had a change of heart. With them wasting so much time talking, Zeus reaches the rooftop and before they can take off he leaps onto the chopper. Scott holds him off and the two battle as Peters flies over Vegas, eventually taking a stray bullet but keeping the chopper afloat. Attempting to retrieve his dropped gun, Scott is bitten by Zeus just as the missile is launched at the city, and at the moment of impact it distracts the Alpha long enough for the Merc to spin around and put a bullet in its brain. As Tanaka deduces that he's not receiving his money or bride's head, the shockwave catches up to the chopper sending it crashing down into the Nevada desert. Kate survives the crash but finds both Peters and Gita killed in the wreckage. She finds her father still alive but mortally wounded, apologizing that it's not the millions he promised but producing enough money to help Gita's kids get out of the camp. She tearfully says her goodbyes to her father when he quickly begins to change, then shoots him in the head and drops to her knees crying as a rescue chopper arrives. Sometime later Vanderohe emerges from the vault with his share of the money and takes a car from a nearby property. He goes to the nearest airport and rents a private plane to take him straight to Mexico, but while sharing a toast with the flight attendants he begins to feel lightheaded. He excuses himself to go to the bathroom and reveals a slow turning bite, and rhymes a word with truck as the plane begins to descend. And the movie ends.
We all know the basics. Zombies, shamblers, the undead, whatever you want to call them. When it comes to killing them, it's all about the brain.
So you made it. I appreciate your time. I couldn't have done it without you. Tell your mother I said thanks.